Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to jump into something pretty deep, a spiritual discourse from Supreme Master Ching Hai. We're going to unpack this idea she calls the Supersensible sound and a path to enlightenment known as the Kuan Yin method. So, let's get right into it and see what this proposed path, from feeling disconnected all the way back to our source, is all about.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. We've got 5 main points, and they really follow a kind of problem-a-solution story from the source material. We'll start with a big human dilemma, and then look at the path offered to resolve it.
So, first up, the discourse kicks off by touching on something we all feel, right? That search for answers, the really, really big questions in life.
I mean, think about it. Where do we even come from? And what happens after we die? Why is there so much suffering in the world? According to the speaker, these are the questions that really push us to look for something deeper. You know, you see the pain, the sickness, how short life can feel, and you just have to wonder, why? Is this all there is?
Okay, so what's the answer to that why? Well, this teaching offers a pretty specific reason for all that suffering, and that feeling of what's it all for. It's not just bad luck or random chance. The idea here is that it all comes from this deep, deep feeling of being separated from where we truly came from.
And to really make this point hit home, the discourse uses this incredibly powerful analogy. It says we're like a severed arm. Imagine that. It's still our arm, technically, but it's been cut off from the body. It can't function anymore, and eventually it's just going to wither away. The teaching says that's us. That's why we feel this underlying loneliness and helplessness, this pain, even when everything on the surface seems totally fine.
So this brings us to the idea of karma, but maybe not in the way you're used to thinking about it. It's not just about, a cosmic tally of good versus bad deeds. Here, karma, or what's also called original sin, is the state of being disconnected itself. It's the baggage we carry simply because we've been separated from our true life-giving source.
All right, so if the big problem is being disconnected, then the million-dollar question is, how do you reconnect? This is where the discourse draws a line in the sand. It compares the methods most people know with what it calls a more direct, even ultimate solution. On one hand, you have traditional methods, things like prayer, chanting, reading holy books, and the speaker says, look, these things can absolutely bring comfort, but they're described as worldly tools. They operate within the mind, using the concepts and language of our world. But on the other hand, there's the proposed alternative, a supersensible tool. This is the Kuan Yin method. And the whole idea is that it's designed to go beyond the mind, to connect you directly to a higher reality.
So what exactly is this supersensible tool? Well, it all comes down to connecting with something called the supersensible sound. And let's be clear, this isn't a sound you hear with your ears. It's described as the actual creative vibration of the entire universe. The discourse makes the case that this isn't some new idea either. It points to things like the word from the Bible or the inner sound stream in Buddhist texts, suggesting they're all talking about the very same thing.
Okay, so here's the catch. According to this teaching, you can't just, decide to tune into this cosmic frequency by yourself. It's said that you need a very specific kind of guide to make it happen.
And that guide is what's called an enlightened master, or Minh Sư in Vietnamese. Think of them as the essential facilitator. The teaching says they don't just point you in the right direction, they actually hold the key, so to speak. They're the one who can open that inner door for you and jumpstart that connection between your soul and this universal sound stream.
And this brings us back to that first analogy, but with a new twist. Remember the severed arm? Well, if we're the severed limb, then the master is the spiritual surgeon. I mean, what a powerful image, right? The idea is that this reconnection isn't a simple fix. It's a delicate, complex operation. It takes an expert to, as the quote says, painstakingly reconnect every nerve and blood vessel to make that limb whole again, to reattach the soul to the universal life force.
So, let's say the surgery is a success. The master has performed this reconnection. What happens next? What's the end result? What is the whole point of this practice?
Well, the promised results are pretty profound. We're talking total liberation. The idea is that this reconnection doesn't just put a Band-Aid on your suffering, it gets rid of the root cause entirely. All that karma we talked about, wiped clean.
You're said to gain a true understanding of who you are, where you came from, and attain complete freedom from the cycle of life and death. And a really key point here is that this is supposedly accessible to everyone, no matter your age or physical state. It's presented as a path open to all.
So the discourse we've walked through today offers a very specific answer to that question. It's all centered on this inner vibration, this supersensible sound, and the need for a master to guide you there. Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If you really were disconnected from your origin, how would you find your way back home?